guys, hi, how's it going? How y'all doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I'm doing a new repurchase or not here on my channel, which is a video that I go through the palettes in my collection and randomly choose them using a random number generator and the spreadsheet that they're in for my collection, pick 10 palettes and tell you whether I would purchase them or no. So I do this coming from two different angles. So if they were to leave my collection for whatever reason, they came up missing, would I need them so badly in my collection I would repurchase them, knowing what I know now about the palettes? So obviously I have had to use these palettes prior to pulling them in to this repurchase or not platform, but also the secondary angle that I hit this from is obviously at some point these were purchased because they caught my eye, right? They caught my attention. So if they were a palette that was launched today, would they catch my attention in the same way that they caught my attention when I initially purchased them? So that being said, I hope that that sounds like something that you are interested in watching. It seems to be a pretty popular video here on my channel, and there are several of us that do this, and we'll have some of them linked down in the description box for you. I just dropped a palette and thought I had busted it all up. That said, for those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I'm a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care. Ultimately, this that I do here, this is my self-care. It soothes my soul, warms my heart, curbs the anxiety, if you will. And this is my safe space where I come to just feel at peace with myself. And therefore this is the self-care that I have in my day. I really do enjoy coming out here and talking to you about all things beauty, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're not going to find me mincing words here on this channel, but you will find a chatty channel. I do like to chat, so I hope that you're here for it. And if you are, and you find that you like me enough at the end of the video, I do implore you, please subscribe. I am trying to hit 2K this year. I think that we're super close, and I think that we can absolutely do it, but I need your help in that. So if you're here watching, you enjoy it, please subscribe. And that said, let's jump into this video where I am going through 10 randomly chosen palettes in my collection and telling you whether I would repurchase them today if they left my collection. All right, so I have 10 palettes here. I'm sure that you saw them in the thumbnail, but these are the 10 that were randomly chosen for me to walk through with you today. And as you guys know, I don't like go through the numbers with you here, but I do have them numbered. I do tell you the amount of numbers that we went through to get this. I don't have all of my palettes in like a decision wheel. I do have 205 palettes, and that seems like just a lot of work to put them all into a decision wheel. So I don't do that, but what I do instead is I have the Pretty Random number app, and I just like shake it, it pulls up a number for me, and I correlate this number with the number in my palette spreadsheet, and I have them marked so that I know whether I've done them or not. I have a nice little key on it so that I'm not duplicating this, hopefully. With all the best intentions, I'm not duplicating this, but that is how I pull them. So in order to get these 10 palettes, I did end up having to roll 9 extra numbers. So I rolled 19 numbers to get the 10 palettes that I'm talking with you today about, because I obviously can't take out the numbers of the palettes that I have already done. So I just skip over those and we re-roll for the ones that I've already done. So all of the like housekeeping in order, I did land on these 10 palettes, and in no particular order. Let's walk through them. Well, in no particular order, but in the order that they were pulled. Let's walk through them. So the first one that was pulled for me was number 141 in my spreadsheet, which is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Cosmos palette. And this actually is one of my top palettes from ABH. So I cannot see a time when if this left my collection, I would just let it stand at leaving my collection. I do think that I would want to repurchase this palette. Do have a good time with this palette. I think that every look I've gotten from this palette I've really, really loved. And I would hope that this one wouldn't just disappear from my collection. But if it did, I do think that I'd want to repurchase it. I do have it marked as a yes, I would repurchase it. I think it is just truly a beautiful, like almost ethereal, like fairy-like kind of palette in my collection. It has a little bit of uniqueness to it because of that. And the one thing that I don't 100% love about it is I do think that the mattes, which are these three here and these two here, don't really 100% go with the shimmers that are in the palette, but I do love the shimmers in this palette so dang much. And I mean, ABH has just a really consistent and great formula, so I do think that I would want to repurchase this palette. Now, if this palette was to launch today, because I did side-eye it when it first came out, it is a palette that I went and purchased right after it launched. So it is one that I side-eyed enough that I decided I needed to purchase it. If it launched today, would I side-eye it? Would I want to purchase it still? I do think that it would be a palette that I wanted to purchase if it was a palette that promoted or launched today. So there's that. Yes, I would repurchase it if it were missing, if it went missing from my collection. And yes, I do think I would side-eye it today. While we're on this topic, just so that you all are aware, this crazy makeup look that I am wearing today is part of a video that you will see or have seen. Cannot remember when this is supposed to launch or when this video is supposed to go up. I will just tell you, this isn't like a normal, I don't love this makeup look. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I think it looks crazy. But there's that. But I wanted to film 2 videos today and I couldn't do, I don't have time to take off my makeup, redo my makeup, and film another video because I have to be somewhere in a couple of hours. So there's that. The number 2 video that was pulled for me was number 190 in my spreadsheet, which would be the Unearthly Devour. And listen, Unearthly has become relatively quickly a favorite brand for me. Like, I really, really love their eyeshadow palettes, and I really honestly love the color stories that they do. I'm kind of an out-of-the-box color story kind of girl, and this color story just is divine. I love this palette so much. So if this palette were to disappear from my collection, I absolutely would want to repurchase it. It would probably be top 3 out of the palettes that I'm looking at that I would want to repurchase. And I mean, reds are some of my favorite colors to wear on my eyes, and green is my favorite color, period. So not that I look spectacular in green, I don't think. I mean, this teal tells you everything that you need to know, but these greens I actually look a little bit better in, I feel like. And the Unearthly formula is just fantastic. Their mattes are fantastic. Their shimmers are out of this world. So yes, I would absolutely want to repurchase it and would probably cry if this went missing from my collection. If this were to launch today, would I want to purchase it? Yes, I would definitely side-eye it. I definitely would want it. If I remember correctly, this was part of a surprise box that they did, and nobody got to see the inside of it until it was launched. And I remember when it was launched, when it finally, started showing up on the YouTube space, when people finally started showcasing it, I remember thinking, dang it, I didn't take part in that surprise box. And I was just sure that this was not going to be available outside of that surprise box and was so sad about it. But it ended up coming back and on its own. You didn't have to buy it in a big surprise box or a big bundle. So I did end up picking it up last year when I finally purchased from Unearthly, and I cannot be happier with this palette specifically, I created some beautiful eye looks from this palette. And also my friend Melissa Nadaline just posted her makeup rehab in which she goes through all the things that she purchased. And one of the things that she purchased was this palette because of my review of this palette, which I will link up in the cards for you, where I showcase like some of my eye looks. It is just a truly beautiful palette, so I would be sad to not have it. So yes, I would repurchase it, and yes, if it were to launch today, I would also side-eye it and put it in my basket. Even though I'm on a no-buy, I still am building my fantasy cart of stuff that I want to pick up when I'm done with this no-buy. So there's that. The next one that was pulled for me was number 60, which in my spreadsheet is the Natasha Denona Mini Nude palette. And as much as I tell myself that no, I would not pick this up today, I really do think that I would, just because it's Natasha Denona. But if I am not lying to myself, these are just not, I did not have, yes, it's a great palette. It's a great palette for people that love these colors in their everyday eye looks. It's a great palette for somebody who needs these colors for everyday eyeshadow on their face, right? I don't have to wear an everyday eye look. You know, I'm not working in an office or in a place that doesn't encourage me to, you know, do what I want to with the makeup on my face. So when I think about whether I need this palette in my collection or no, the answer would be no. Would I repurchase it if it went missing from my collection today? I then think that the answer has to be no. I don't 100% fall in line with Natasha Denona minis. Honestly, I have almost the entire Natasha Denona palette collection in my collection, but minis are not really something that I pay a whole lot of attention to. So if this palette went missing today, would I want to repurchase it? Probably not, honestly. Not because it's bad, just because it's a mini and it's browns. And I don't really, that's not really the bag that I fall into, but I do have it marked as yes because it's a Natasha Denona palette, and Natasha Denona is a brand that I own a lot from and feel like I need to own everything from. But that is just the gluttony in me telling me that. So I'm going to say no, I wouldn't repurchase this. I just don't think that of all the Natasha Denona palettes that I have, that this one would be top in my needs to repurchase place when it comes to losing the palettes in my palette collection. If it were to launch today, would I side-eye it? No. One that I am side-eyeing is the Gloom palette. I didn't side-eye this one when it launched before. I wouldn't side-eye it if it were to launch today. The only reason why I have it in my collection is because at some point last year, I got a burr up my hind end and thought, I need also all of Natasha Denona mini eyeshadow palettes. I don't need them. But that Gloom palette now, that Gloom palette that she just released, the mini Gloom, I want that for sure. This just isn't one that I would repurchase. That's crazy. The next palette that was chosen for me was number 91 in my spreadsheet, and that was the Pat McGrath Mini Subversive palette. These are actually called Eye Ecstasy palettes. This one is the Eye Ecstasy Subversive palette. I mentioned this before in a video that I just did. I cannot remember what video it was, but these are Pat McGrath palettes that I don't think anybody has. You know what I think happens with me wearing these eye colors is I think that and this blush color, I think that my eyes look so close together. Sorry, tangent. I don't think anybody has these palettes, and if they do, you darn sure don't hear about anybody talking about them. These were launched way before Pat McGrath had 5-pan eyeshadow palettes, way before her holiday collections, way before I really even got solidly into makeup. and they were only $25. So I literally think I picked them up my first year here, which was 2017. At some point, maybe during the holiday season. These are plastic. They're 5 shades out of her palettes. These 5 specifically came from the Subversive palette, and this is what they look like. I will say that I don't necessarily think that these are shadows that I need in my life. So I do have this marked as no, I wouldn't repurchase it. I wouldn't repurchase it for multiple reasons, one of which being I don't think these are something I need in my life. But second of all, I also, these aren't available anymore, right? But I also don't want the Subversive palette from McGrath. So why I picked up this one, I will never know, except for to say that I've always been kind of a color queen. These are colorful shadows. I wanted some Pat McGrath in my collection. I was unwilling at the time to spend $128 per palette, so I bought these instead because they were available. And that is what it is. These are tiny, teeny tiny eyeshadows. I don't think that they're all that spectacular. They're definitely not her special shades, so would I be sad if this left my collection? Maybe, but would I want to pick it back up or, you know, hunt it down on Mercari or something like that? No, I absolutely wouldn't need to have this in my collection. And if it was launched today, I don't think I'd side-eye it either, just because I have far superior shimmer shadows in my collection these days from the indie brands that I am interested in and the indie brands that I have purchased from. So I don't think that Pat McGrath is all that it's cracked up to be, honestly, anymore. From a shimmer perspective, especially not just a plain shimmer perspective. So no, I would not repurchase it if it came up missing, and no, I would not side-eye it if it launched today. Okay, the next one that was pulled for me is number 13 in my spreadsheet, and that would be my Huda Beauty Sapphire Obsessions. The biggest reason why I picked this up is because, number one, I loved her Obsessions palettes at one point in time, and I wanted all of the gemstone ones specifically. Sapphire specifically because that is my birthstone, and I wanted it, right? That said, and this is the color story, and if you see my eyeballs, you should know that I did not tell myself that these colors would look great on me. My fantasy self lady told me that, if that gives you any clue to what's going on with this eye look. And my fantasy self lady lies to me all the time. Like, that Donna is like a Donna destroyer. That is what that Donna is. That Donna is a liar. And this Donna does not like liars. So there's that. That said, it is a sapphire eyeshadow palette, so you had to have known this Donna. It was going to be blues. Yes, I did. I saw it before I purchased it. Would I be sad if this left my collection today for whatever reason, and would I then want to repurchase it? I think I would be sad, yes. But I don't think I'd want to repurchase it. I have so many blues and teals and greens in my eyeshadow palette collection because, again, fantasy self, but also because I love, I think that they're just gorgeous. I don't 100% think that this is the best blue eyeshadow palette that I have in my collection. And I've kind of decluttered almost all of my Obsession palettes at this point in time. So, no, I don't think I would need to repurchase this. If it left my collection today, I would be sad because of the whole sapphire, like, nostalgia thing. Or not nostalgia, the whole sapphire connection, I guess. But I don't need it, that's for sure. If it was to launch today, would I side-eye it? Yes. Like, I'm not gonna lie. These are, again, the colors that speak to my fantasy self. So yes, I would side-eye it. And yes, I would go, ooh, I maybe need to pick that up. But then my Donna self, my logical Donna self would need to tell fantasy self, you don't know what you're talking about. It's not colors that you'll wear. So stop it. Stop it. Yep, stop. The next one is number 89, and number 89 in my spreadsheets was Moonlit Seduction. And Moonlit Seduction is by Pat McGrath. If you guys do not know that, I'm sure that you do. I've got blue eyeshadow all over me from that Sapphire palette. How did that even happen? Look, how did that even happen? I didn't even touch the shadows in that palette. God. Okay, Moonlit Seduction looks like this, and it is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. This shadow right here is quite possibly my favorite Pat McGrath shadow in my whole collection. I love this palette. Knowing what I know today, if it left my collection, would I want to repurchase it? Probably. I honestly had such a great time using this palette. I loved every single shadow in it. I did not have a problem with any of them. Again, this is probably my favorite shade in my entire Pat McGrath collection. And that shade is VR Ecstasy. Such a beautiful eyeshadow palette. Would I want to repurchase it if it disappeared? Yes. Likely. It is a beautiful eyeshadow palette, and I want to have it in my collection. Would it pain me because it's $128? Absolutely. But would I want it? Yes. I do think that I would. It is a little bit, boring here on this side, but I do love some like pinks and reds in my eye looks. I love a deep dark brown. I love all of the special shades in this palette, but that one specifically being my favorite in my whole Pat McGrath collection. I think that I would need to have this back in my collection if it were to disappear today. If it launched today, would I side-eye it? Well, truth be told, this palette is Mothership number 10, so it didn't launch all that long ago, and I side-eyed it, right? I bought it because I side-eyed it. So I do think that I probably would side-eye it, even though it's very neutral and very boring. I always side-eye Pat McGrath, let's be honest. I do think that there's, some part of me that's like, she's overrated, she's overpriced, she's like whatever, but I do love her eyeshadow palettes. I love a lot of her face products. I love Pat McGrath as a brand. So I do think that I would side-eye this palette, and I do think that I'd want to purchase it again. So the answers to that one would be yes and yes. The next one I had pulled was number 20 in my spreadsheet, which was Melt Gemini 1. And I drooled over this palette for years before I pulled it into my collection. I used to have this thing where I didn't want to bring in a brand if I couldn't touch it, feel it. And that kind of put me in this place where I wasn't buying from indie a whole hell of a lot, right? But after my first dabble with Melt, I knew I really loved Melt Cosmetics, but then for whatever reason, did not buy this palette for the longest time. And then I think, if I remember correctly, it discontinued, and I was so bummed because it discontinued. But then it came back, and it came back with a vengeance, and it came back with Gemini 2 followed up, and I bought them both. And I love this palette. Again, green's my favorite color. Green is my favorite color. These shades of green, probably some of my most favorite greens, because they're grungy and dirty and gothic and just pretty, right? But these greens mixed with these shades over here, these mustards and these oranges, oh my god, such a beautiful eye look comes from this palette. And I also love the Melt formula. So if this disappeared from my collection today, would I want to repurchase it? Yes. If it launched today, would I side-eye it? Yes. There are a set number of brands that I literally side-eye everything from. Melt is one of those brands. I really love Melt, and I really love Melt for their crazy fickle formula. Whereas, a lot of people are like, This formula is so hard to work. It is kind of hard to work with. I love it. So I would, yes, repurchase it or want to. And I would, yes, side-eye it if it were to launch today. Okay, the next one is number 71 in my spreadsheet, which was a Violet Voss palette, which was fun because Violet Voss doesn't get, I only have 3 Violet Voss palettes, so it doesn't get pulled very often. But number 71, Violet Voss, Like a Boss. This is what it looks like, and honestly, I think this was my first adventure into Violet Voss, and the color story is what drew me in because it's very like grungy over here, right? So I thought I needed to have it. Looking at it today, would it be a palette that I would want to repurchase if it came up missing in my collection? The answer is probably not. It is, at the end of the day, very much a neutral eyeshadow palette, and it kind of sits in the middle of like, I think I did, well, I know I did, like my number one from each brand, like the palette I would keep from each brand and the palette I would declutter from each brand in my collection. And this one, because Violet Voss, I only have 3 palettes in my collection, just kind of sat in the middle. I also think that this one could probably go out of my collection, and I wouldn't feel some kind of way about it. I have a lot of good memories with this palette because I did some collaborations with some friends of mine on this platform with this palette, and I do love the Violet Voss formula. I think it is a fantastic formula, but I don't necessarily think I need this palette in my collection. Don't think that if it were to disappear from my collection today that I would want to go out and repurchase it. I'd be like, que sera, sera, like it was, but it isn't anymore, and that's totally okay. If it were to launch today, would I side-eye it? I also think the answer would be no. Like, again, it does have a little bit of grunginess going on here on this side, but at the end of the day, it's just a neutral eyeshadow palette. If you cover up these 6 shades here, you're left with just a bunch of neutrality. And that was the reason why I said that the palette that I had from Violet Voss would be the one that I decluttered. I think it was the HG, the Holy Grail, because it's just a neutral eyeshadow palette. A pink leaning neutral eyeshadow palette, but that's the same thing this is. So it would be a no and a no, which honestly is not what I had written down, but like opening it up and looking at it, that is the answer that I have for you. The next one that was pulled for me was number 152 in my spreadsheet, and number 152 in my spreadsheet is the Morphe Petal Passion palette. And listen, this is a beautiful palette and I really do like it a lot, but Morphe just isn't a brand that I'm drawn to, and it's not a brand that I think is the best, and I know that I have better eyeshadows of this like tone or shade in my palette collection somewhere else that I prefer more and that I would gravitate to pick up more so than this one should I have been given the choice, right? So when it comes down to it, if this palette were to leave my collection today, if it got stolen or whatnot, I would probably say more power to ya. Go for it. You do you, boo. And no, would not need to repurchase it. I don't think it's a palette that you can get these days anyways. I did get it in gratis, so it wasn't a palette that I purchased in the first place. I just don't purchase from Morphe, if I'm honest with you. I did a long time ago, way back when I first started this channel 8 years ago, but it's just not one that I purchase from anymore, and didn't purchase this. So probably it would not be a thing that I would even think twice about. I would likely not even realize it was missing. That said, if it launched today, would I side-eye it? Again, the answer would have to be no. Yes, I think it's a beautiful palette and I have kept it. It's survived many a declutter because it is pretty. It's a pretty palette and I have created some really pretty eye looks out of it, but it is also a palette that I just don't know. Like I said, that I I wouldn't side-eye it. I didn't side-eye it. And I wouldn't in the future, or if it were launched today, side-eye it. It's just not a palette that I need to have in my collection overall. The last one that was pulled for me was number 42, which is the Natasha Denona Green Brown. This is a Natasha Denona palette that I would want to repurchase. Oops. That I would want to repurchase if it went missing. This is a Natasha Denona palette that I would absolutely notice was missing. This is a Natasha Denona palette that I would probably cry about if it were missing. And while this is a very boring, very basic, very green, brown eyeshadow palette, I have created some stunning looks out of this. I'm not 100% thrilled that this palette is almost all shimmer, if I'm honest with you. For this many pans of eyeshadow, I would hope that there would be more mattes in it, but this is one of, if not the first, Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette that she created. So there's a lot of satins in this, which is not my favorite, but was hers for a very long time. So I would definitely repurchase this. And if it launched today, I would also definitely side-eye it, just because of all the greens in this beautiful palette, because again, my favorite color is green, but also because of who created the palette. I would want to repurchase it for the collector mentality that I have with Natasha Denona palettes, but also this is one of my favorite Natasha Denona palettes just for a simple, basic, everyday eye look. So yes, I would want to repurchase it, and yes, I would side-eye it when it came down to it. So of the palettes that we went through today, I have 5. It's an even split. Again, I have 5 palettes that I would not repurchase, and I would not side-eye. Huda, Natasha, Pat McGrath, Morphe, and Violet Voss. I think a couple of them kind of surprised me, but at the end of the day, like, let's be real with ourselves, right? And then I also have 5 that I would side-eye and repurchase. Natasha, Unearthly, ABH, Melt, and Pat McGrath. So it's interesting to see that there are some luxury brands on both ends of this spectrum, right? Ones that I would repurchase and need to have in my collection, but ones that I also would not care to repurchase to have back in my collection. I think that's what interests me the most. It's not just the, you know, cheap brands that I don't 100% love that are going into the no, I wouldn't repurchase it pile. So that makes me happy. That tells me I'm making smart decisions. Well, now, maybe not before. Thank you guys so much for watching me today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure that you like it. Please make sure you leave me a comment down in the comments section. I still reply to every single one of the comments that are left for me. So I do like to hear from you guys down there. Don't forget to hit me up. Please make sure that you subscribe before you go. I would love to welcome you and have you be a part of my YouTube fam here. And let me know what you think, what your decision would be about these palette choices. Would you repurchase them if you had them in your collection, or if you do have them in your collection, would you repurchase them if they went missing? I would be interested to hear from you. So make sure that you drop me a comment down there. And that said, I hope that you are all doing well. I hope that you are all safe and healthy and getting along as best that you can. I hope that you are all loving each other, being kind humans, and living your best life. And until next time, bye friends.